welcome back for another video. It's Eharbad once more, and we have the overpowered fusion that's going on for Armanz. Is he our man? Is that kind of what the illusion is there? So Armanz, the Magnificent, is completely, utterly busted as a champion. We have the AoE stun with steel turn meter, and you have the whole the whole sheep debuff that cannot be blocked. It's just, ridiculous. Anyway, enough has been said about that. Obviously, we're going to go after the fusion itself, and what are we doing right now? We're doing we just finished the dragon. I pretty much did the entire dragon tournament today. Essentially, once the dungeon divers started, that's when I went into dragon. Before that, I was doing champion training in campaign. I've almost finished that as well. I think dungeon divers actually started yesterday, so I would have done some dragon yesterday as well. So that's kind of all ticking along. In terms of Ice Golem, that will overlap with CVC, so I'll probably be trying to maximize it there, but we do have to finish dungeon divers beforehand, which means during CVC it might be this cheeky sand devil that will get me some extra points. Dungeon divers, we got 1 day, 18 hours, and we still need quite a decent amount. We'll see. This won't overlap with CVC, so I do need to make sure that is done and dusted. It's not a great schedule, to be honest. Let's jump into the schedule. We'll have a little chat about that, and then obviously we've got the summon rush going on, so we'll do a few summons for that as well. Right, here's the old schedule. Now, the interesting thing, obviously, is that we have this 50 fragments here. Let me see if I can get some markups going. That'll do. That fits in quite nicely. Now, what do we want to talk about? Let's grab that. So we've obviously got this extra 50 coming in from the hero's path. Is there an easy way of doing this? Maybe we'll just highlight it instead. There we go. It's tricky because, as you can see, it starts pretty much at the end. So the only thing we could practically skip by the time we know precisely what this contains is potentially the Dungeon Divers 3. And realistically, I would say you're going to do Spider anyway. Probably maybe the Artifact Enhancement. So I would hold off maybe doing those two until we have visibility on the hero's path. But if we do get 50 extra fragments, it's not really a problem anymore. We do have uses to convert the excess champion fragments into chests to try and get High Mother Maud. So it's not a complete waste. This is pretty late. We do know that it's going to be shards and soulstones. So this is heavy on the summoning. And the reality is, depending on what else we can get in this hero's path, there could be a guaranteed legendary. I mean, that is basically a question. Do we have a guaranteed legendary or not? And I type that in. There we go. Lego question mark. If we did have a guaranteed, this becomes very attractive. But will I risk skipping either the summon rush here or the champion chase next weekend? Probably not. I think it's too much of a risk. This one is relatively cheap, the summon rush coming over this weekend. Champion chase will end up being with a 2x. People think it's going to be 2x void. I think that's reasonably likely. So, you kind of got from there to there. You should have a 2x. So you'll probably want to do that. And then the other important overlap is from Tuesday to Thursday, we have CVC. But it is not a PR. It's not a personal reward CVC. So, in terms of overlap, you could, in theory, do Ice Golem, But because you cannot do Dungeon Divers and you cannot do Dungeon Divers 2, doing Ice Golem, therefore during CBC, personally isn't worth it. I'm going to have to do Ice Golem. Realistically, I'm going to be doing champion training today, and then tomorrow I'm going to go and do Ice Golem. And I will probably have to do quite a lot of Ice Golem to get the Dungeon Divers done. So I think ends up being the game plan, is the Dungeon Divers forces you to compress the energy usage, and you basically have realistically a hard cutoff here because of the Dungeon Divers. And you end up with this kind of cutoff for the Dungeon Divers there. And similar here, if you look for the Dungeon Divers, you basically have Spider overlapping with the Dungeon Divers, but really nothing else. There's a tiny, tiny bit of champion training, but not a lot. So this one is going to be particularly tricky, Dungeon Divers 3, in terms of efficiency. Obviously, you can get it done quickly because of Spider. It's Super Raids and Spider. It's a fast dungeon. But in terms of resource efficiency, this one's going to be a bit of a challenge. Dungeon Divers 2, we've got, Fire Knight and Champion Training. So similarly here, I will probably open up with Fire Knight on Thursday, Friday, and then I'm going to move over to Champion Training. Do bear in mind that we will need to train the 4 epics during the second champion training event. So this is where I'll be training the epics, basically between here and say here. And one thing to bear in mind is the champion chase. So the fusion epics I will be fusing or summoning during the champion chase. And that will give us, roughly, we'll realistically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Call it 9. So I think we'll only have 2 epics by then, potentially by the end of it, 3. So we can say 2 to 3 epics during that champion chase weekend. So budget 500 to 750 in points. Surprisingly hard to actually write with a mouse. It's extremely challenging. That will be the approach I'm going to take. Anyway, I think that's enough for the actual kind of plan itself. I think there's a lot of pitfalls, potential pitfalls anyway, and various like energy gaps and inefficiencies and big compression. So we're probably going to end up having to use some gems for energy, and hopefully you guys have managed to save up a good amount of energy. I went into this with quite a good amount of energy coming from things like the tag team, the fusion warm-up, the previous artifact enhancement event, whatever else had been going on, and a few of the sort of login rewards that we get. So it worked out quite well so far. I've not actually used any gems, but I probably will have to use some gems just to get the Dungeon Divers done. So I've got 280 points already just from mystery shards for the champion training. I'm still just going to summon 6 Acrids, get to the fragments here. I don't massively care about the rest of the rewards. The legendary books are quite nice, and if I didn't have Duchess, I might consider summoning more. But I do have Duchess. In fact, I have every single champion that's on the Progressive Chance event. I have 2 Duchess, 1 Pythian, 1 Uko, 1 Elva, and 1 Ancora. And even with that, I think I'll probably pick getting yet another Duchess over anything else. I do now have 3 Ugo. Otherwise, I would recommend probably getting more Ugos. But I don't need more Rectors or Gorgoreb. So it's all a bit irrelevant at this point. I'll just pick Ugo anyway. The other thing I considered was simply because I'm extremely close to Mercy on my Void Shards. I think I'm about 200 Voids without a legendary. And if the 2x next weekend is void as expected, I don't want to waste my mercy during a 2x. I'd rather use the mercy during a aggressive where there's a game-changing legendary at hand. Now the problem here, I don't really care for a second arbiter. This champion, Bellator, whatever his name is not game-changing. Raglan's not game-changing. Raka's pretty good, but I had like a look through all the different legendaries, and the void legendaries I feel that would really be a game changer for me right now are probably Yumiko. I mean, Shuzen's very good as well, but if I had to really pick and as is Riho, to be honest, but if I had to pick like the absolute creme de la creme, I would say Yumiko. Quiz is good, but not one that I would necessarily care too much about. Jorgid's very good as well, but similar situation. Not fussed about any of them. Then Sify, possibly a net crit, although I feel like he's somewhat weakened because of Narcisse, but still top tier. Sify's very unique and still probably the best support for defense-based nukers. So Yumiko, Sify, Anithwa is good, but not going to be a game changer for me. Supreme Galak would actually be superb for Hydra. Warlord, I feel like Yumiko is just better in the long run. Brisk would also be very good, but I don't think it's really going to be as impactful. Grazur would be another one, I would say, just for the huge carry in Hydra and some of the teams that you can do. Archer, obviously, but not Void. Cardiel, basically, I think is the other really impactful one. So it'd be like Cardiel, Sify, Yumiko would probably be the three that would be most kind of interesting from an all-round gameplay. And then obviously the busted duo, Mariska Taras. So I think if the progressive was for any of those five, I would use voids now instead. And so I've got a funny situation where if we do have 2x voids next weekend as expected, and I don't do my mercy now, I'm going to have to try and do the champion chase without using voids and save my mercy for an event that has one of those 5 champions. So protect my mercy. It's not very often, particularly as free to play, that you get to your void mercy, just because getting 200 to 230 voids takes a very, very long time. So they're very, very valuable, basically, to be at that mercy point where you have a much materially higher chance of getting one of those truly game-changing void legendaries. So I'll protect that. I'll go for Sacreds this weekend. And then basically, if it is 2x void, I'm going to use a combination of potentially the Remnant summons, potentially Fragment summons, and just potentially Mystery and Ancient Shards. We'll have to see kind of what the tiering is, what the point requirements are, and obviously we'll get a little bit from fusing the epics from the current fusion. But anyway, it's a long way of explaining the method of my madness. We are going to pull 6 of the Sacreds, and hopefully we'll get the double legendary. It's always nice. That's one of the best uses of Sacred Shards, but I'm not going to chase it. Sacred Mercy is very bad, and I don't want to chase it. Basically, I'd rather save those resources. What else actually is there worth mentioning? Because I think we just got our first new champion in Suren. I think that's the right pronunciation. Hard to tell. What does she actually do? Poison on the A1, weaken on the A2, decrease defense. Not terrible. Not terrible. There was something I was going to say. Now I've forgotten it. How many more do we need to do anyway? 3 more. I don't remember what it was, so it can't have been that important. Then hopefully we'll get it, but I'm not going to chase it. I do still keep hoping that we'll get the remaining epics for Mikage, but I don't hold much hope. And that is one more, I think we need to. Hopefully, I haven't summoned one too many, and all epics. But we did get the Ugo. I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah, basically, the Mercy is just so bad. It's just not worth it. I think that's a simple reality. I wonder if I can show Mercy system, Sacred. So after you've gone 12 summons, you only get 2% per shard increase. You can see, like, it's pretty poor. Like, the Ancient Void, the Mercy on Ancient Void is 5% per shard, and these are generally considered, low value shards. So to only get 2% that's brutal. That is brutal. The other question is, how long is it going to take to get 200 primals? I mean, wow. That ain't happening anytime soon. Jeez. Anyway, that is all for this video. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the fusion, how I'm going to approach it, my summons as they are. We didn't get the 1+1. I would have liked to have, but I'm not going to chase it because the Mercy's so bad. You could go 20, 30 Sacreds without summoning, and at that point, it just isn't worth it. Unless, of course, you were chasing Duchess, and this is one of the best chances for you to get your first Duchess. So, anyway, on that note, please do like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.